So, speaking of free speech, uh, the U.S. government and Customs Enforcement Service put out a pretty chilling video claiming that people should not be allowed to continue certain political rhetoric.
Officers and agents walk into danger so other people can sleep safely at night, so kids can make it to school safely and play outside. So while it's easy to be an armchair quarterback and make up talking points that get activists riled up, the bottom line is my officers and agents are out there protecting the same people who are threatening their safety. Law enforcement's common sense. Politicians need to stop putting my people in danger. I'm not asking them to stop. I'm demanding that they stop. Here's what I have to say to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, and anyone else stirring up the outrage about what ICE does. These are real people with real families you're hurting with your ridiculous rhetoric and inflammatory comments. And it's time to remember that.
Okay, so keep in mind, I'm not familiar with the Boston mayor, but I am familiar with Hakeem Jeffries. I'm sure he's not saying anything that would cross the line beyond what we consider inbounds, freedom of speech, political discourse. Hakeem Jeffries is not exactly a profile in political courage. I'm sure he's not saying anything inflammatory or radical enough to justify that kind of a claim. Now, what we've really seen in full force since Trump's election, and we saw it, a preamble to it after October 7th, is these anti-woke people are the wokest motherfuckers that you can find. They always go right to the woke tactic, which is safetyism. They love safetyism. That is their favorite technique for shutting down speech. You're putting people in danger. Do you realize people are going to die because of what you're saying? They go right to it, man. They go right to it. Just like any blue hair on the Ivy League campuses they despise so much. They sound just like them. So Aaron Reichlin Melnick says here, beyond the free speech issues and the hypocrisy, I am actually sympathetic to some of his concerns. Threatening the family of an ICE officer is wrong. Who did that? Did Hakeem Jeffries do that? Because these are the people he's naming. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But ICE leadership knew a large backlash was a consequence of these outrageous new operations, and they ordered it anyway. Yeah, man. You expect people not to speak out against your agency when they're in the middle of turning Los Angeles upside down to get 100 people? 100 people, you're turning the city upside down. Comes with the territory, sunshine. These people, just like the wokesters that they claim to hate so much, they fundamentally do not believe in democracy. That's really a big part of what's happening right now. Some of the core bedrock principles, however hypocritically applied they might have been, there was kind of a universal agreement that we all believe in democracy and that freedom of speech is a cornerstone of democracy. That's being relitigated in broad daylight. And whatever hypocrisy and unequal enforcement of those standards among different populations in society there might have been, having that ideal there gave us some kind of a common ground on which to have these conversations where we could all agree shutting down freedom of speech is wrong. Therefore, you could say, well, you're doing that in this case. And the argument would not have been, well, but that's justified. Now that is the argument. That's justified. And really, that was a big part of why I personally spoke a lot about these culture war woke things in the past, because it was very clear that once they put that into the bloodstream, everyone was going to use it. No one more than the people who claim to oppose it the most. Once you made it acceptable to invoke safety as a basis for shutting down speech, that is a very, very dangerous premise in a supposedly free and open society. And it was inevitable that what you'd wind up with is a fascist, essentially fascist administration that will rush into the wedge you created between the public and its common agreement on freedom of speech, bring in a crowbar and force it wide open.
Well, yeah, because the only way it stops is for one side to basically say, okay, the principle of free speech is more important than whatever our partisan aims are in the moment.
Right.
And there aren't that many incentives within this system to yield in that way, right? Because, you know, it's a very polarized country where you have these two parties representing factions of people who believe that it is their responsibility not just to rule the country, but to crush the opposition, right?
Right.
If you view the opposition as an existential threat, then you're not going to defer to any overarching principle of, hey, we all have a right to speak our mind. No, neither of these two factions believe the other side has the right to actually speak their mind. That's very obvious.
Exactly.
That's very obvious. And so it will only escalate further. And the only way it stops is for one side to say, okay, you know what? We're not going to arrest Gavin Newsom because that's over the line. Good luck. Good luck. I mean, we're a few months in. You know, this is Los
God
Angeles.
help us.
There were anti-ICE protests in New York City, which got upstaged by the LA riots since they were bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, Chris Murphy was calling for protests nationwide, and don't think that ICE will not be sent in to agitate, just like they were sent in to clearly agitate in LA. Now, because LA is such a big city with such a big immigrant population, you have the spectacle that you had here. But they don't need that spectacle everywhere, you know? I mean, it doesn't take much to scare people into submission, and that's clearly what they're trying to do. Why, you know, this guy coming up there, I mean, you know, Holman saying, well, you know, Newsom hasn't crossed the line yet. I'm just saying he could. Yeah, they're putting you on notice.
Right. Yeah.
They're putting you on notice. Why would
they already
there?
arrested that congresswoman for going to the ICE facility.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, it is very, very troubling. And if this guy is not the deep state, I don't know who is. I mean, you know, this guy right here. Who the hell is this?
Law
guy?
enforcement's common sense.
Who elected this?
Politicians need to stop putting my people in danger.
They're telling you right there.
I mean, the idea.
I gave my neck for this country.
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. The only thing I would add is that the idea of weaponizing the justice system to intimidate and disqualify your political opponents is certainly not new. We saw it on steroids and on parade while Joe Biden was president.
Oh yeah.
So
Sure.
this is not something unique to the Trump administration. They're just picking up the ball where the Biden administration left off. And in fact, they have yet to imprison anybody from the Biden administration, unlike what Biden did to Trump. They put Bannon in prison, all those people that they put in prison, and they raided their house at 3 a.m. and they had to reverse the New York State Constitution so they could prosecute Donald Trump over bogus rape charge from 30 years ago. So this is, most of the January 6th stuff was complete lawfare. So this idea, that's the only point I would make. I agree with what you're saying, that's what they're doing, but this is not new to American politics.
Sure. And what I would say to that is that I think, like, one of my biggest criticisms of the Trump administration so far is that they seem to be treating ordinary people the way Biden treated the Trump team. If it's tit for tat, if you want to go after the power players who came after you, right? You say, hey, you know what? We're going to investigate Nancy Pelosi for insider trading. We're going to go after these powerful people who have used their position to enrich themselves at the expense of the public good and who weaponize the government against us. I think most people would be kind of for that. Most people would take a certain pleasure in that. Instead, what the Trump people have done is they have taken that energy and they've directed it at student protesters, visa holders, immigrants. Like, they're taking that energy and they're just punching down at small people with no money and no power. Hey, where's the fashion? Throw some fascism Eric Swalwell's way. People wouldn't give you shit about that. See what happened with him and that Chinese spy.
You don't see.
What are we picking on small people for? That's a bad look.
Yeah, you don't see people getting upset about the CBS lawsuit. You don't see people getting upset about him going after these law firms that went after him at the behest of Democrats. But that's not their main target. Even it's the people.
Well, the same way that they were able to get half the country excited about prosecuting regular people on who participated in January 6th, Trump is now able to do the same thing, get people excited about prosecuting regular people who they oppose politically. So again, that's not new. And I agree. I think people would be on board with going after Nancy Pelosi and Swalwell and everybody who, was engineering January 6th, which was the deep state and the FBI, but they're not going to do that. So I mean, I agree with you, but this is just calm. This feels like the end of the empire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And I mean, the Epstein thing I think is really like revealing in that way too. Like when it comes to immigrants or students or Tesla vandals, it's we will find you, we will hunt you down, we will throw the book at you, no compromises, 20-year minimum sentence, no pleas, no nothing. When it comes to Epstein, it's like this takes time. We're working on it. We're seeing what we can do here. We have the video. We don't have the video. We're going to show you what we can, but we can't show you everything. Like there's such puppy dogs when
we have tapes. We don't have tapes.
People. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Come see us on tour in Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, Liverpool, Birmingham, and London. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.